Every morning before you make a single conscious decision, your body is already running a sequence that has been running in human beings for hundreds of thousands of years. Your heart rate is climbing, your core temperature is rising, and your stomach, that muscular sac sitting in the upper left corner of your abdomen, is already awake, already active, already waiting. The question is, what are you about to give it first? And after more than 15 years working with patients, I can tell you that what happens in that first hour after you open your eyes shapes more of your day than almost any other decision you will make. Your energy at 10 in the morning, your focus at noon, your blood sugar response at lunch, your mood by mid-afternoon, all of it traces back to what your gut received first thing. And in a 10 or 12-minute appointment, nobody sits you down and walks you through the biology behind it. That is exactly what we are doing today. We are going to go through the specific things your stomach needs in that first hour, in the right order, and more importantly, I am going to explain the mechanism behind each one so that you understand the why. When you understand why a rule exists, you never forget it. And I want to save the most important one for the end, because the last item on this list is the one that changes not just your morning, but your metabolic response to every meal you eat for the rest of the day. Stay with me until the end, because that last one surprises almost every patient I share it with. Before we start, tell me in the comments how old you are and what your morning routine looks like right now. Do you go straight for the coffee? Do you skip breakfast entirely? I read those comments, and the answers genuinely shape what I cover next on this channel. Now, before we get into the specific items, I need to install the framework that makes everything else make sense. Think of your gut as a system that runs a night shift. While you slept for 7 or 8 hours, your stomach was doing maintenance work, emptying its contents, cycling through acid, rebuilding its protective lining. By the time you open your eyes, that system has been running in a kind of low power mode. And here is the critical detail. The acid sitting in your empty stomach first thing in the morning is at its highest concentration of the entire day. The pH in a fasting stomach runs between 1.5 and 3.5. To give you a frame of reference, lemon juice sits around a pH of 2. Battery acid sits at 0. Your stomach handles this every single morning safely because of a protective mucus layer that coats the stomach wall like a shield. That mucus layer is the thing standing between highly concentrated acid and the cells lining your stomach. Everything I'm about to tell you either protects and supports that system or it undermines it. Keep that image in your mind as we go through each item. The first thing your stomach should receive every morning is water. Not lemon water, not alkaline water, not any product with a label on it. Plain water, warm or at room temperature, between 10 and 17 fluid ounces before anything else passes your lips, before coffee, before food, before you check your phone. This sounds almost insultingly simple. I understand that. But the biology behind it is genuinely elegant, and once you hear it, you will never skip this step again. Here is what is happening inside your body while you sleep. You are losing fluid continuously through respiration and through the skin. A normal night of sleep costs the body somewhere between half a liter and a full liter of water just from breathing and the natural moisture your skin releases. You wake up mildly dehydrated every single morning without exception. And your digestive enzymes, the proteins that chemically dismantle the food you eat, require water as their medium to function. An enzyme in a dehydrated environment is like a surgeon trying to operate without lighting. The tools are there, the skill is there, the conditions are wrong. When you drink warm water on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, 4 things happen simultaneously. The water dilutes the most concentrated surface layer of that fasting gastric acid. It stimulates the stomach walls to produce fresh mucus, replenishing the protective barrier. It activates peristalsis, the rhythmic wave-like muscular contractions that move material through the digestive tract. And it rehydrates the entire digestive system after those 7 or 8 hours without any fluid intake. A study published in the World Journal of Gastroenterology demonstrated that warm water specifically improves gastric motility compared to cold water. Subjects showed measurably better rates of gastric emptying and reported less digestive sluggishness. The temperature matters because warm liquid relaxes the smooth muscle of the digestive tract in a way that cold liquid does not. Cold water can trigger a mild vasoconstrictive response in the gut, temporarily reducing blood flow to the digestive tissue. Warm water produces the opposite effect. Think about it this way. Your digestive system has been in maintenance mode for 8 hours. You would not cold start a high-performance engine and immediately push it to full load. You warm it up first. You let it find its operating temperature. You let the fluids circulate. Water is the warm-up your digestive system has been waiting for every single morning. 3 minutes. 1 glass, maybe 2. Warm if you can manage it. Do this before anything else, and you have already done something genuinely meaningful for your gut. The second item is one that is going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people to hear, and I want to be direct with you because you deserve the honest biology, not a version that is softened to be easy. You need to delay your coffee. Now, I'm not telling you to give up coffee. Coffee has real benefits, and I will get to those. But the timing of when you drink it matters enormously, and here is why. Every morning, in the 30 to 45 minutes after you wake up, your cortisol levels surge between 38 and 75% above baseline. This is called the cortisol awakening response, and it is one of the most consistent and reproducible hormonal shifts in the entire 24-hour cycle. Decades of research, including work by Stefan Wüst and Clemens Kirschbaum, have characterized this response. It happens in roughly 77% of healthy adults every single morning. Whether you slept well or badly, whether you are stressed or relaxed, whether it is Monday or Saturday, cortisol is not the enemy here. It is mobilizing energy, regulating inflammation, and preparing your immune system for the day. It is an essential signal. But here is the piece that most people miss entirely. When cortisol stays elevated for too long, it suppresses the mucus layer lining your stomach wall, the exact protective barrier we just talked about. And now consider what happens when you pour coffee into that environment. Caffeine directly stimulates additional cortisol release. This has been demonstrated in multiple studies. When you drink coffee in those first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, while your cortisol is already surging from the awakening response, you are stacking a second cortisol stimulus on top of the first. The suppression of your stomach's protective mucus layer is amplified. And you have poured an acidic beverage, coffee has a pH between 4 and 5, directly into a stomach that is already at peak acid concentration with a compromised protective lining and no food to buffer any of it. The neuroscientist Andrew Huberman has noted in his research communications that the ideal window for caffeine consumption is between 90 and 120 minutes after waking, specifically to avoid this cortisol stacking mechanism. Is 90 minutes realistic for everyone on a Tuesday morning? Probably not. But even waiting 30 to 45 minutes, enough time for that cortisol peak to crest and begin its natural decline, meaningfully reduces the cumulative impact. And if you drink your coffee with food rather than before it or on an empty stomach, the presence of fat and protein in the stomach changes how the chlorogenic acids in coffee interact with the gastric lining. Food buffers the impact in a real and measurable way. So, the adjustment here is not elimination. It is sequencing. Water first, then a little time, then coffee with or after food. That single shift removes one of the most common sources of daily gut stress that I see playing out across my patients. The third thing your stomach needs, and this is where we move from protection into active support, is a source of soluble prebiotic fiber. Right now, you are carrying approximately 38 trillion microbial cells in your digestive tract. That figure comes from a landmark study published in 2016 by Ron Sender, Shai Fuchs, and Ron Milo at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel, published first in Cell and then in PLOS Biology. The old estimate of 10 bacterial cells for every human cell turned out to be wrong. The real ratio is much closer to 1 to 1, approximately 38 trillion bacterial cells alongside roughly 30 trillion human cells. By cell count, you are about half human and half microbial. These are not passengers. They are synthesizing vitamin K. They are producing several B vitamins, including precursors to B12. They are fermenting dietary fiber and producing short-chain fatty acids that feed the cells lining your colon. They are regulating the development and calibration of your immune system. Approximately 70% of your immune cells live in the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, the immune tissue lining the gastrointestinal tract. And they are producing neurotransmitters, including between 90 and 95% of your body's total serotonin, not in your brain, in your gut. After an overnight fast of 8 hours, these 38 trillion organisms have been running on reserves. The first meal you eat in the morning is the first feeding of this entire ecosystem since dinner the night before. And what they eat is fermentable fiber, specifically prebiotic fiber, the kind that your own digestive enzymes cannot break down, but that gut bacteria ferment and metabolize. The best single breakfast source of this fiber is whole grain oats. Not instant oats, not flavored packets, steel cut or whole rolled oats. The beta-glucan fiber in oats has been studied more extensively than almost any other dietary fiber component. The FDA approved a heart health claim for oat beta-glucan in 1997 after reviewing substantial clinical evidence showing that it lowers LDL cholesterol by sequestering bile acids, moderates postprandial blood glucose, and feeds populations of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium in the gut. If you add chia seeds, which bring soluble fiber and omega-3 fatty acids, and ground flaxseed, which contains lignans and additional soluble fiber, you are giving your gut bacteria a prebiotic substrate that activates the butyrate production cascade throughout the day. And butyrate is worth understanding because it is one of the most important compounds most people have never heard of. Faecalibacterium prausnitzii, one of the most abundant species in a healthy human gut, is a primary producer of butyrate. Butyrate is the main energy source for colonocytes, the cells lining your colon. It reduces inflammation, it strengthens the gut barrier. In people with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, Faecalibacterium prausnitzii is almost always found in drastically reduced populations. Its presence is not decorative, it is structural, and it runs on the fiber you feed it. Quick pause here. If this is connecting dots for you, tap the like button. It genuinely helps this reach more seniors who need it. And if someone in your family is struggling with digestive issues, blood sugar, or just that mid-morning energy crash they cannot explain, send them this video. So far, we have covered water to protect and prime the system, delaying coffee to let your cortisol do its natural work without interference, and prebiotic fiber to feed the microbial ecosystem that runs much of your metabolic and immune function. Everything has followed the same principle. Work with the biology that is already running, not against it. What comes next addresses the part of the morning meal that most people's breakfast get completely wrong, and it affects your muscles, your appetite, and your blood sugar response for the entire rest of the day. Before I get there, I want to take a moment, because we have covered a lot of ground together, and I think it is worth pausing on what this material actually means for your daily life. We have talked about the cortisol awakening response, the stomach's acid and mucus dynamics, 38 trillion gut microbes that run your immune system and produce your serotonin, and the specific fiber that feeds the bacteria responsible for butyrate production. This is the kind of context that a 10 or 12 minute appointment simply does not have room for. And it is exactly why I put together the complete Senior Health Vault, the full set of guides covering the medications worth questioning, the foods that act as medicine, and the complete manual for how your body works after 70. Everything we barely have time to touch in a video like this is laid out fully there, with the exact questions to bring to your next appointment and the tools to apply it to your own pills, your own plate, and the warning signs specific to you. You will find the link in the description below, or just scan the code on your screen right now. It is educational material, not a substitute for your doctor, but it is the resource I wish every one of my patients had before they walked into my office. Now, the fourth thing your stomach and your body need in that first hour is adequate protein. And this is where the typical American breakfast falls apart entirely. Your muscles are more receptive to amino acids in the fasting morning state than at almost any other point in the day. Muscle protein synthesis, the process by which your body builds and maintains muscle tissue, runs in cycles, and the morning period after an overnight fast is when your muscles are most primed to use the amino acids they receive. Dr. Douglas Patton Jones at the University of Texas Medical School has spent a significant portion of his career studying protein distribution and muscle protein synthesis. And his research consistently shows that distributing protein intake across 3 meals, including breakfast, results in significantly greater 24-hour muscle protein synthesis than concentrating it in 1 or 2 meals, which is what most people do. Most people consume almost no protein at breakfast and then try to take in 60 to 80 grams at dinner. Your body cannot efficiently use a large protein bolus that way. Research suggests that 25 to 40 grams per meal appears to be the functional optimal range for maximally stimulating the synthesis process. And yet, the typical American breakfast, a bowl of sweetened cereal, or a bagel, or a glass of juice, delivers almost none of it. Eggs are genuinely one of the hardest protein sources to beat in the morning, not because of trends or marketing, but because of their composition. Two eggs deliver between 12 and 14 grams of high quality protein containing all 9 essential amino acids. They contain choline, which is essential for liver function and membrane health, and which most Americans are deficient in. They contain leucine, the amino acid most directly responsible for activating the muscle protein synthesis signaling pathway in amounts close to the threshold that research shows to be effective. If you combine eggs with a serving of plain Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, both high in leucine and containing casein and whey proteins, you will reach that 25-gram target without difficulty. And that brings me to the fifth item, the one I promised you at the start, the one that changes not just your morning, but your metabolic response to every meal you eat for the rest of the day. A fermented food? In 2021, researchers at Stanford published a randomized clinical trial in the journal Cell. The team, led by Hannah Wastick, Gabriela Fragidakis, and principal investigators Justin and Erica Sonnenberg, alongside Christopher Gardner, took 36 healthy adults and assigned them randomly to either a high-fiber diet or a high-fermented food diet for 10 weeks. The fermented food group consumed yogurt, kefir, fermented cottage cheese, kimchi, sauerkraut, and kombucha. What they found was a significant increase in overall microbiome diversity, with more pronounced effects at higher serving sizes. They also saw decreases in 19 inflammatory proteins measured in blood. 4 types of immune cells showed reduced activation. The high-fiber group did not show the same diversification. The researchers were clear that these findings are preliminary and that more work is needed, but the signal is strong. Fermented foods appear to remodel the gut microbiota in ways that matter for immune function and inflammation. And the morning is a particularly opportune time for them because you are introducing living bacterial cultures into a gut that has just spent 8 hours in a fasting lower activity state. But here is the piece that most people have not heard, and this is the part I save for last. It is called the second meal effect, and it was first described by Dr. David Jenkins at the University of Toronto. This is the same researcher who created the glycemic index. What Jenkins discovered is that the fiber composition of your first meal changes how your body processes carbohydrates in your second meal hours later. When you consume soluble fiber at breakfast, the kind that forms a gel in the digestive tract, you slow gastric emptying. This creates a more gradual absorption curve, and the downstream effects on insulin and blood glucose extend forward in time to affect your response to lunch. The breakfast you eat shapes your metabolic response to your midday meal. This effect has been replicated in multiple clinical settings. It is not small. It means that getting your first meal right is not just about the morning. It is a metabolic investment in the entire day. And this connects directly to what researchers studying circadian biology have been finding. Every cell in your body contains a molecular clock. The clock genes BMAL1, PER1, PER2, and CRY1 regulate the timing of metabolic processes at the cellular level. This work was considered significant enough that the 2017 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was awarded specifically to Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael Young for their work elucidating the molecular mechanisms of these circadian clocks. Your pancreas is more insulin sensitive in the morning hours. Your liver, which regulates blood glucose and processes bile acids, is at peak metabolic activity in the morning. The same quantity of carbohydrates consumed at 8 in the morning produces a smaller blood sugar spike than the same quantity consumed at 8 at night. That has been measured in controlled clinical settings, including research from Frank Shear's laboratory at Harvard Medical School. Your digestive system is not neutral about when you eat. It is built for the morning. Let me tell you about someone I will call Margaret. She came to me at 71 years old from Columbus, Ohio. Her daughter had brought her in. Margaret had been waking up every morning, drinking black coffee immediately, skipping breakfast entirely most days, and then crashing hard around 10:30. Which she had been told for years was just her age catching up with her. Her blood sugar was running high. She had been put on a medication for it. She was also dealing with what her previous doctor had labeled irritable bowel, which had been managed with 2 different prescriptions for going on 4 years. We did not start with a new prescription. We changed the sequence of her mornings. Water first, before anything else. Coffee, pushed back by 45 minutes and taken with food. Steel-cut oats with ground flaxseed and chia, 2 eggs, and a small serving of plain Greek yogurt. Every morning. That was the whole intervention for the first 12 weeks. Within 3 months, Margaret's fasting blood glucose had dropped into a range that allowed her physician to reduce her medication dose. Her gastroenterologist documented a meaningful reduction in her reported digestive symptoms. But what Margaret told me herself, and this is the part I remember most clearly, is that for the first time in years, she was making it to lunch without that 10:30 collapse. She told me she had stopped thinking of herself as someone who was just too old to have energy in the mornings. She started walking to the mailbox and back every day after breakfast, which turned into a walk around the block, which turned into a habit she has kept going for over a year. Her gut had not held a grudge for years of coffee on an empty stomach. It responded to what she gave it, quickly and measurably. That is the thing about gut biology that I find genuinely extraordinary, and I want to leave you with this, because it matters. Measurable changes in microbiome composition have been documented in as little as 3 to 4 days of consistent dietary changes. Not weeks. Not months. Days. Your gut does not require you to repay a long debt of bad breakfast before it starts working better. It responds to what you give it now. So here is what tonight and tomorrow morning look like if you are ready to act on this. Tonight, set your oats to soak. Steel-cut oats soaked overnight need only a few minutes on the stove in the morning. Put a container of plain Greek yogurt in the refrigerator. Make sure you have eggs. That is 3 minutes of preparation. Tomorrow morning, before your phone, before the coffee maker, before any decision about the day, pour yourself 10 to 17 fluid ounces of warm water and drink it. Set a timer for 30 to 45 minutes before you start the coffee. While the water is doing its work, prepare your oats, cook your eggs, set out the yogurt, add a tablespoon of ground flaxseed and a tablespoon of chia seeds to the oats. Drink your coffee with the meal, not before it, not on an empty stomach. Eat within the first 1 to 2 hours after waking. Not immediately upon rising, but not at noon either. Your metabolic machinery is at its best in the morning. Use it. That sequence, water, delayed coffee with food, prebiotic fiber, adequate protein, and a fermented food, is the full morning protocol. It is not expensive. It does not require anything exotic. It is a direct match between what your biology is prepared to receive in that first hour and what you actually give it. Tell me in the comments that you are going to try this tomorrow morning. Even just the water first. Start there and build from it. I read every comment and I want to know how it goes for you. And before you go, there is one more place your body is sending you signals every morning, signals most people misread entirely, that turn out to be early warnings worth knowing about. That is the next video. Stay sharp, and I will see you.